Hey, we're here in New York to check out the new Google Pixel 3 and Pixel 3 XL. They have a lot going for them, but I do have to point out one thing right out of the gate. They're very similar devices. Right at a very functional core level, we're looking at the Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 chipset with 4 gigs of RAM. That's admittedly a little light for a flagship smartphone in 2018. That hasn't impacted performance very much. I've been running with both of these devices, running lots of apps and generally trying to screw things up, and actually haven't been able to do that so far. 4 gigs of RAM is definitely okay for a smartphone right now, but I wonder how well the 3 and 3 XL will age as a result. Beyond that, there are some very obvious differences. The Pixel 3 XL has a bigger battery. The displays are also obviously very different. They're both OLED screens, but the Pixel 3 XL uses a 6.3-inch panel, while the smaller Pixel 3 uses a 5.5, which, in my experience at least, makes it probably the best smaller phone you can buy when this thing goes on sale. That 5.5-inch display might seem a little cramped compared to what we've got with the XL, but for my money, it's probably the best small phone I've used all year. Granted, there haven't been a ton of great ones, but the Pixel 3 is kind of leading that pack right now. Other than that, though, we are looking at a pretty safe update as far as hardware itself goes. The new design is a little bit sleeker. The edges melt more effortlessly into the two-tone glass back of the device, which actually makes it feel smoother and more rounded, and in a lot of ways more comfortable than last year's Pixel 2 and 2 XL, which are in some ways kind of utilitarian in their design. They've added a lot of polish here that makes these two phones feel kind of special. But then again, the components on display here are kind of table stakes for what you'd expect from a flagship phone in 2018. Google, being Google though, has decided to really push the envelope when it comes to machine learning and software features, especially when it comes to the camera. Around the back, we have a 12.2 megapixel dual pixel camera. Sensor-wise, it doesn't seem like a huge step over the very good sensor we got in last year's Pixels. But here's the thing, as always with Google, it's all about the computation happening in the background. Some of the test shots I've taken, granted in this madhouse, have turned out surprisingly well, and we've got some new features here to help make sure that your photos turn out as good as they're going to. One of them is called Top Shot. If you're shooting a motion photo, it'll actually bounce through the saved video file and pick out the parts that actually look the best. So if you're like me and have a weird face and blink a lot in photos, it'll actually highlight the parts that you should save as a JPEG and share with your friends. The one thing we haven't been able to test out on the camera front, which has been frankly a bit of a bummer, is the super low light mode. We've seen a couple of these in the past. Huawei's P20 Pro had one. All of what's happening on the Pixel 3 and 3 XL is happening in software, and it's basically HDR+. It takes more exposures with longer exposure times and stitches those together for an effect that, at least based off of these sample photos we've seen on devices, looks pretty damn good. But of course, there is a dual camera somewhere that's up front. You've got a standard front-facing camera for your selfies, but a wide-angle camera to better capture the group, your crew, whoever's with you at the time. It's also worth pointing out that Google's improved HDR works through these front cameras as well. So the photos taken with the wide-angle selfie camera on the 3 and 3 XL easily outpace what we've seen on photos taken with the iPhone XS. Again, we're going to have to test this for ourselves. These are photos that Google have provided, but it's clear that Google's focus on AI and machine learning and computational photography have made this probably the best camera we've used in a smartphone all year. We've got a notch display because, of course, we were going to. Active Edge is back, so you can squeeze the phone to access Google Assistant. But again, in terms of the physicality of the device, I just wish Google had tried to be a little more gutsy with the stuff they brought to the table. They could have set the stage for Android devices in 2018 and beyond, and it kind of feels like they didn't. All of the work happened in software, which is fine, but it'll take us a little bit more time to figure out what these things are really about.